Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com where music comes to life. And my guest today is one of the most talented and humble people I've ever had the pleasure of being around. You probably know him best from his work with bands like Guns N' Roses, Sons of Apollo, and many others. But he's about to, well, actually, he just released his first solo instrumental album in 10 years, appropriately called Returns. Please welcome Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes.
So now you have been exceptionally busy over the past decade, and we'll get into all of that. But were you kind of writing and recording this record in pieces while you were working on all those other projects?
Yes and no. I didn't have any intention of making another instrumental record. It was one of those things where it was on the someday list. Someday, yeah, maybe someday, sure, someday. But I did do a few instrumental songs that I just kind of tossed out digitally, onto Spotify and Bandcamp and that kind of stuff. So it really was just the pandemic where all those some days there was suddenly time
Yeah.
and they could happen. So I thought of all the things people had asked, would you ever do another acoustic EP? I did one in 2008. So I did two of them and stuck them on Bandcamp. And would you ever do another instrumental album? Now, what I would do is on all my own albums, I would have a few instrumental songs peppered, if I could use that word, lightly peppered amongst the vocal songs. And I always think of Van Halen albums, like the way you would have Spanish Fly, was that before DOA, and then little guitars, and then that, Eruption, like they'd be peppered.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. I would have instrumental songs here and there, but my main thing was to be a rock band with vocals and rock music. But suddenly I'm in this chair for 2 years. It's like, all right, the gift of time. So there was a riff that I had written for Sons of Apollo's second album that we didn't use. And I said, let me take that riff and just turn that into a song. So I did that and appropriately named it, oh my God, I just had a brain fart. I forgot the name of my song. This is what happens when you turn 55. Planetary Lockdown.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I put that out and before that, in 2019, I had put out another song, just a one-off instrumental song. So the first thing I did is when I decided, okay, I'm going to make an album. I knew I at least had those two songs to put on there. They were just digital, and I wanted to have them on physical stuff as well. So I started writing, and the first thing I took was a song idea I had from 1989. It was this riff that I never did anything with. And it's just been collecting dust on a mental shelf for decades. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take that and I'm going to turn that into a song. So I just took that and just started building around it. It starts with that, and then drums kick in and the bass kicks in, just doing whatever, just one take of just whatever came to mind for the bass line. And then threw a melody on top, almost felt almost Satriani-ish, like. So 2 times of that, and that's like where to go from there. Okay, let's have the whole band kick in and heavy guitars and change the chords around. Keep the idea of the melody almost like theme and variations. So that's the theme, and now we're creating a variation. And where to go from there and break it up with something else. And the song just kind of just built and built and built. And then in the middle of it, it had this, I just pictured a big long space to just jam, just an open field to do whatever. And I thought, would be good to jam with someone and like trade back and forth. There's room for that. Because I wasn't really looking to have guests, or if I did, certainly not a lot of them. I didn't want this to be, the variety hour. And, but also during the time of that riff, 1989, I had just gotten my first legit write-up in a real guitar magazine. And this teenager, a kid my age, wrote to me, and he was from England, and he said, "Hi, my name is Guthrie Govan. I would love to hear your demo if you could send me a cassette copy, and here's mine." And we became pen pals, and for years we would write each other handwritten letters and send each other cassettes of just all our little demos and handwritten transcriptions and everything for years, And I was on his song, Rhode Island Shred. I played the solo to that and the harmonies to the end. And so it just seemed fitting to ask him to take this song from that time period that I'm finishing up, where I first met him and had that riff, and my legitimacy began. And asked him if he would trade back and forth with me. And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So we did a little back and forth. He took a solo, I did one, he took one, I took one. And there was that. That was the first song I did with the intent of making an album. And then from there, I just kept writing fresh songs. There was one other song that I had from a video game I did in 2010. And that was the Chopin waltz. This is like the real version. It's a lot prettier this way. But of course, the video game was like a Rock Band, Guitar Hero kind of game, and they were making one. This Polish company was making this video game of just Chopin in different styles to celebrate his 200th birthday. So they asked me if I would do like a guitar metal version of it. So, and just the crazy and where it went like. So of course, I had to build and just go like, and just do this whole crazy version of it. And so I took that song and had my drummer, Kyle Hughes, the phenomenal drummer that played on every single track except for one. We'll talk about that. And so he laid these crazy drums on it, and then I added some orchestration to the middle and put that on the album as well. And everything else was written freshly. Yeah.
And I mean, I always believe that there are two kinds of instrumental guitar albums. I mean, as a kid, I loved that fast shred stuff and would listen to that all the time. Then around high school, I discovered Jeff Beck. And here are instrumentals with song structures and melodies. And what I love about this record of yours is you can almost sing along to these songs. There's a melody that goes through them. When you're writing, do you know from the start whether it's going to be an instrumental or whether it's going to be vocal?
Usually when I'm writing a song, as soon as there's a nice melody, it goes straight to the voice. And I write words to it and I sing it. This time I just put a big piece of tape over my mouth. And anytime there was a melody, and this is something that I always kind of kicked myself for, which is I never, or just not often enough, I guess. I feel like I always gave the melodies to the mouth and not to the hands, and because of that, it's very easy to be labeled as an unmelodic player. Even though if you listen as a whole to like the whole catalog of decades of music, there are melodies in there, but usually the guitar solo is the place where you do the flashier stuff.
Right.
And a little bit, it's a very strong spice. A little bit goes a very long way. You can have a completely melodic solo, but if for 2 seconds you do something crazy, it'll be like, oh yeah, that's what people are gonna point at. And if you do 3 seconds, it's not melodic anymore. Now it's a shred solo. So with this album and with just writing songs where I was permitting the guitar to be the voice
Yeah.
and to do the singing. I think it finally, for once, I'm hearing people say singable solos, singable songs, and that's something that I always wished I could do. And I guess I finally am doing it, but I guess it takes an entire song to pull that off and not just a guitar solo. And maybe that's just my immaturity of feeling like I have to just always get crazy during a guitar solo. So yeah, it's singable. It is. It's songs that I would have sang, but instead I just keep the tape on the mouth and just let the guitar do the talking, do the singing. And I do feel like there's a lot of it on here, and I feel happy about that. That at some point before I'm 6 feet under, I made something someone could sing.
It's a wonderfully diverse record as well. My favorite is where you go from Moonshine Hootenanny into that Chopin piece that you just played. It's kind of mind-blowing. When we spoke last year, you had mentioned that when you're in a band with five guys, if you get 20% of what you want, that's fair. Is it refreshing after all those band projects you were working on to do a record like this where you can put those two songs back to back and nobody's going to tell you no?
It is. Yeah, it's good to have both. When you
Yeah.
play in a band, you have people that are adding things that you're incapable of coming up with. Becomes more than just what you could do. With this album, though, you get to fully express 100% in every aspect the artwork, the songwriting, the playing, every single thing, the order of songs.
Mhm.
You get to really give 100% of yourself. And that's what you want to do as a musician. Is like you want to like really like pull out as much blood and guts and sweat and tears and anything you have that you can put into it. There's a real thrill in getting that out of you and sharing that and so yes, it feels damn good to be able to do that. And for me, I like to do unexpected. I like to shock people in ways like even just the way the album starts. You know, it doesn't come in gently. It's like an angry 5-year-old swinging. Ah! And I wanted the feeling to be like you just woke up in a tornado. And you're like, what the, what's going on? And that it should take like that amount of time it takes when you're woken up out of sleep and your brain isn't quite back yet for like a good 10 seconds. It should feel like that when the album kicks in. And for all of these songs, I was picturing a lot of things. There was a lot of visuals in my head as I was writing, and I was almost writing towards those stories and pictures in my weird brain. Yeah, which is what I always do with writing for TV shows and video games and horror movies and all that stuff. There's a scene that you're scoring. So in this case, the goal was for people to imagine the same scene I was imagining while listening to the music. So with the first song, Simon in Space, as I was writing the song and as it was coming together and making all the sounds, it really did feel dynamically like, by the end, like you were just on a little ride, a roller coaster, or a space adventure. Some of the sounds are kind of spacey. So it's very easy to plot out the music video to that. It's like it just opens up, boom, you're in an asteroid belt and a million things and all this chaos and everything flying around. You get out of it and you're just exploring space, and then the chorus, that melody, and you see beautiful things and nebula and colorful stuff, and then it's like, oh, it's back, more chaos, and it just, I wanted it to feel like you were taking a good space ride, and hopefully that's what people picture when they listen to the song, and by the end of it, that they feel like they were just on a little mini mental adventure. And all the songs have some sort of visual like that I could tell you about. If we have time, I talk way too much all the time.
Well, we had mentioned some of the other bands that you've been working with over the past few years, and after Sons of Apollo, you and Derek formed Whom Gods Destroy. You guys had a great record out last year. Will there be more from that band coming up?
I don't know. I mean, I would hope so. It was the intention.
Mhm,
It's just everyone needs to write some music.
mhm,
So if that happens, we'll have a second album.
mhm.
And at this point, I think everyone is very busy with everything else, especially, you know, you can make an album during the pandemic, but once the pandemic is over and you go back to everything you were doing, whatever momentum you had during that time period when you had all that time isn't there anymore. So it's really hard to keep that same momentum you had for those things.
Yeah.
Everyone is back to doing their touring. Everyone's back on the hamster wheel of just
The
tour, tour,
day
tour, tour,
job, yeah.
tour, and doing their own things. And so hopefully time could be made to do another Who Gods Destroy album. I think the band would have been incredible live if
Yes,
we
without a
did
doubt.
shows. And the goal was to do a second album and then do shows so that we don't have to pad
Yeah.
a show with covers or other things, and that we would have enough music to fill a good hour and a half or 2 hours. So yeah, but even while writing that, the mind frame I was in musically of all of that like dark, chromatic, weird, heavy riffs, that bled a lot into the things on the solo album because it's what I was living, so it would show itself. So suddenly in the middle of Moonshine Hootenanny, where it feels like, this kind of bluegrassy thing going on, it takes this weird detour and it's all this dark sounding stuff with this kind of, where's the one? Rhythms. And Monstruoso has a lot of that as well. And it shows itself. Pretty much this album is like a scrapbook of, all right, here's what I did, here's where I visited, here's where I felt for
Exactly.
the past couple of years. And every song is a different picture. They're not all the same place, the same time, the same state of mind. When the pandemic is wearing you down from all the death, this orchestrated song with this crying violin, because that is what I was feeling, and that was a picture of that. It was a picture of loss. Just everything was just a different photo in the photo album of here's what I did during the pandemic. And they're not all the same by far, yeah, they're definitely, I guess you could say maybe stylistically, I mean, there's a common thread that could be heard throughout, but definitely different experiences being shared.
Yeah. And one of the bands that you did hit the road with, Art of Anarchy, last year. Uh, what about that band? I mean, I know live you guys put on some amazing shows. I know maybe the crowds were quite what we were all hoping for, but do you think that band will still continue every few years or?
The Jersey show we did well. I think
Yeah.
we pretty much filled that one.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh, it's always one.
Yeah.
uh, Time will tell. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, everyone's back to doing their
Yeah.
their things. So yeah, once everyone's on their hamster wheels, can they all get off again to go back and do this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And now, will you be hitting the road at all behind the new solo record?
I don't plan on touring, like, driving around in a van
Yeah.
for a month. Uh, I won't even say tour bus because this is instrumental guitar music. I'm saying van. Maybe
Yeah.
not even driving around in my car.
Yeah. Yeah, it's your car with a case in the back.
Exactly. The plan is doing one-off events and things like that, and a lot of teaching things. I want to get back to what I love most, which is producing, and I'm producing a ton of bands right now. There's this doom metal band called Evoken that they are just the doomiest of doom. And I recorded all their old albums 20, 25 years ago, and they're doing a new one, and we are in the final mixing of that, and it sounds amazing.
Nice.
And there's a band from Baltimore called Shavrock. It's these two brothers, and they just write these beautiful songs, almost like rabbinical lyrics of hope and goodness, and they harmonize almost. They sound like Simon and Garfunkel, only they get a little louder at times.
Yeah.
So imagine, and the guitar player has this real bluesy rock slash type feel to his playing. So picture, I could describe it as music as if you had Daughtry with Simon and Garfunkel singing and Slash playing guitar.
Got it.
Really interesting stuff, but great songs. They
Yeah.
write such great songs. So we're finishing up their album. And then the Doties, I think I've told you about that.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about
Yeah,
them before. Mm.
yeah. They're
Nice.
putting out their third album, Dreamism, very soon. It's going to be any month now. So, yeah, great album. Such good stuff. It's been a lot of good producing stuff, and I'm so happy with that. I love doing that. I love just helping bands get exactly what they're looking for and getting out there and doing it and helping them make their dreams happen. I feel like I've done my own.
Yeah.
I finished my dreams and now I'm just having fun. So now I'm just using everything I learned, all the stupid mistakes I made, and helping other people make their things happen. So I'm doing a lot of rock and roll fantasy camps as well. I
Yep,
got
we've
one
seen
coming
that.
up in LA just pretty soon, mid-February, another one in Fort Lauderdale in mid-March. And I am playing with Derek Sherinian,
Yep.
keyboards from Gods Destroy, Sons of Apollo, and with Tony Franklin, fretless bass monster,
Amazing.
and Vinny Appice on
Wow.
drums. And we're going to play at the Kennedy Center in DC, April 1st.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
And
fantastic.
it's part of this event that Derek has been playing and brought me in on it. And I've been doing them for a few years now. And it's a festival called Starmus, where
I think you
it,
mentioned that the last time we were speaking. Yes, yes.
yeah, I did. Yes, astrophysics and
Yep.
music, which is right up my alley. My
There you
two
go.
biggest loves,
Yeah.
space and music coming together. So, yeah, there's going to be some good playing happening in April, and I have some more. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of nice little one-offs and events happening, and a lot of teaching stuff. So I'll be getting out there. I'll be playing.
That's awesome. We look forward to it. We've been spending some time here with Ron Bumblefoot Thal. The record is Bumblefoot Returns. It's out everywhere
Returns,
now.
returns, returns.
It's a great record. It's a fun listen. And Ron, as always, thank you. I always love having you on here.
Absolutely, thank you. Yes. So, we're not done, are we?
Nope. Nope.
Okay, good, good. Because there is so much to talk about with this album, and even just the release of it. Like that was a bigger job than making the thing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to just throw it on Spotify. So finally redid the website since 2008 and have a nice new web store and everything. And I just thought about 30 years since putting out the first instrumental album that I did. I haven't done a fully instrumental one since 1995, that first album that debuted on Shrapnel Records. And it's been 10 years since I even just put out a full album. Yeah. So what I love and what we all love about physical products, physical, I hate calling them products, that's so cold. What we love about vinyl and even CDs and cassettes is the artwork. So I made sure that this thing was just filled with artwork. So front cover, back cover.
Nice.
And I want to talk about this spaceship too. We're going to talk about that.
Definitely.
And
Go for
because here you see it, here you see it again leaving, you're seeing inside flying,
it.
and more artwork. And then it's two, this is a double LP, and both of these are filled with colorful artwork.
That's so cool.
And the second disc is a UV pressing
Oh,
with artwork.
nice.
Not a special edition or anything, like every album is like this.
That's awesome.
So it's three sides of music.
Yeah.
Fourth side has the artwork on it, and you can see it through on the third side. You can
Yep.
see the spaceships going, and so there's that. The CD, of course, it opens up. You
Yeah.
have the CD, and then in the other pocket is a fold-out booklet that folds out into like 4-panel size square of art on both sides, and cassette.
The cassette.
Yes, did it on cassette, and even the cassette, it folds all the way out into a bunch of artwork. Like it's all about that.
Love it.
So you have the crazy music video. That's all 8 minutes of wacky animation that I got the help of a wonderful, talented guy named Radek Grabinski out in Poland, good friend of mine that has a video game company. He helped me make that video good. And he also made a Simon in Space video game.
Yep,
It
I
is a
actually was playing
retro,
it. Yeah.
beautiful. Yep, it's like a retro space shooter.
Yeah, it's
Like,
fun.
yeah, it's a fun game. And it's just the music is on there. You can hear the song playing. So just coming up with all different ways to experience this music and enjoy the release of the album. And it's not like a cash grab thing, it's a free video game. It's free.
Yeah.
Just go play it and have fun and all of that. So that's it. I just want this to be a fun thing. That's all I give a shit about at this point.
Yep.
Yeah,
And that's what's missing of music a lot these days is just doing it for fun, enjoying it. And that's what this project is.
absolutely. Yes.
Well, awesome. Ron, again, just thank you so much, my friend. Always love having you on here. You're welcome with any of your projects. You know that.
Good. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, always a pleasure hanging and chatting. Absolutely.
We'll talk soon, my friend.